to the weekend. Hope everyone is having a enjoyable Saturday so far. We'll see if we can add a little horror goodness to it. Now, after several weeks of fairly positive news when it came to box office, especially when it comes to horror films being in theaters, unfortunately, all good things must end. And we have actually seen the second lowest box office weekend this previous weekend. We'll see what this weekend brings. But last weekend was the second lowest box office weekend of the year so far. It did have a horror film at the top, The Invitation, but definitely not the strength of the previous weeks. We're looking at $7 million for The Invitation. And one thing that people have been saying a lot about this, and the folks over at Deadline have some nice coverage on this, is that we're definitely seeing a correlation between advertising budgets being spent on these things and people actually going to see them. The target audience for this particular film is a little bit younger. It's a horror film. Most of them are skewing in towards the 18 to mid 30s, but they did not drop a lot of advertising into this film. Personally, I saw several online ads, but that's really all that I saw. And there is the reality is you do have to spend money to make money. There's a reason advertising budgets blow up the way that they do. It's to get people in those seats. And apparently this is definitely a really nice example of a film which has gotten pretty okay reviews, nothing particularly stellar, but it has definitely shown in its box office numbers that it could be a lot better because they didn't actually spend a lot of money advertising this film. So, not the first horror film that has not come through with a big release. I mean, it's nice that's leading box office. And again, it's number one in a box office weekend that was not particularly great for any genre, but nonetheless, obviously could be better. And we got that teaser for the new Hellraiser. Now we have some actual photos from the new Hellraiser. They're very dark. It's great. We understand that. It goes with the thing, but sure would be nice to see these better. Our first look at Jamie Clayton as the new Pinhead or Hell Priest. The question, Clive Barker was never a fan of the name Pinhead. It was something that fans applied to the character. We'll see what what the character is actually called in this new Hellraiser. Now, one thing that we did get is some confirmation from the director, David Bruckner, that this is not a remake. This is set in the universe of the Hellraiser films. It's a new story in the Hellraiser mythos, but it is not a remake of the original film. There was some back and forth about that. Well, saying some folks thinking it was an actual remake, but it is not, in fact. And we do have more images here. We've got our Odessa Ozion as our female lead there, the lady struggling with drug addiction who finds herself in the pathway of the Cenobites. We also have this nice little introduction of a new character. Now, this is a new Cenobite to the universe. We're told we're probably going to get some of the ones that we've seen before, like the Shatter and things like that. But this is then one of the new Cenobites. This is the one known as Mask. Now, I did apply a little bit of brightening to this particular image to get a better view, and it fits right in the standard Hellraiser visual palette there, don't you think? So we'll obviously have more information about that. Now, that, of course, is right around the corner. October 7th, it's coming to Hulu. This is the feature. And of course, we still have this series on the way, and both of which are produced by Clive Barker. So the right hand is on the till. Let's see if we can get ourselves some good Hellraiser stuff again. And we have another picture from the new Halloween. Micheal Myers doing what Micheal Myers does best, being a little bit stabby. Of course, this is coming to Peacock and cinemas on October 14th. This is obviously coming out through Empire, and we'll see a lot more of that. And we also have Witch on the way, which is a new medieval set horror film, period piece. Obviously, Craig Hind and Mark Zammit are the folks behind this. Premise here is it's set in England in 1575. A man named William must prove the innocence of his wife, who has been accused of being a witch. He has to hunt down the real witch, but it will not, of course, be anywhere as easy as anyone hopes. And, well, the trailer finally dropped. We've now seen the full trailer for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. And I'm not necessarily excited about this film in any way, shape, or form personally, but in fairness, the trailer doesn't look bad. It looks like what you would expect this trailer to this kind of film to be. So if this is to your tastes, then it looks like you might get a fairly well-crafted product. I'm still not sure how I feel about this, but that said, like I said, it's a well put together trailer, and that's what you want, honestly. So, okay, why not? Larsen, Thompson, and Olwen Fouéré. These are faces that you may recognize from The Midnight Club for Thompson, and Fouéré's from The Northman and the most recent Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They have both joined the cast of the new film HORRORSCOPE. Alloy Entertainment and Screen Gems are the folks behind that. They are joining a fairly sizable cast: Jacob Batalon, Alana Bowden, Eileen Bradley, Wolfgang Novogrants, I'm sure. I've just mangled their name. And it is based on the novel by, I don't see the author's name. Alloy's same name penned novel. I'm sorry, Nicholas Adams. My apologies. The name of the book is also HORRORSCOPE. A bunch of friends who get together, read their horoscopes, and discover that they are dying in ways that are connected to Ouija boards, horoscopes. In case if you've watched the horror films, you know how this is going to go. We don't have dates on this, but it is shaping up to be a pretty solid cast. And if you're a fan of these particular performers, it's something definitely to look forward to. And if you are a fan of Blair Butler and Patrick Brice, they are coming together to make a film, Home Before Dark. It's based on a novel of the same name. Blair Butler is actually the writer on this. Patrick Brice is directing. It is the production company behind this is the folks who make Stranger Things. So definitely coming into a very solid base there. The plot has not actually been revealed, but if it's an adaptation of the book, which it is, the premise is a young woman whose family has fled their home, a generation before. Apparently, it was really traumatic. Her father wrote a book about it, and it's the house was haunted. It's become a big deal. She doesn't remember any of these things, so when she returns home to her ancestral estate after her father's death, things don't go according to plan. So, again, very solid in the horror space, but could be a lot of fun. And Julia Butters, Jacob Tremblay, Martin Freeman, and Taylor Schilling have all joined the cast of the folk horror film Queen of Bones. Started production up in Canada. It follows Butters and Tremblay as siblings who live in a remote home with their widowed father, played by Freeman, who is a violin maker. Now, this is a period piece. It's set in 1930s Oregon. Well, they find a spell book in the cellar, and as you might imagine, it doesn't go well. Apparently, this connects to the disappearance of their mother, and they begin to dig into it. Always got to watch out for those spell books in the cellars. I mean, they're just never ends well. Nell Tiger is got her first leading role in the new film First Omen, which is a prequel to The Omen. I wasn't sure we needed more stories told in the Omen space, but maybe we do. She's going to be starring in here. If your name rings a bell, if you're familiar with her, you may have seen her over in the Apple Plus series Servant. Got a lot of very positive buzz there. She's actually considered to be a rising star. Don't know much about the plot, but it is set in the same Omen universe and meant to be a prequel to the original film, which of course starred Gregory Peck. And Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase are going to bring a little bit of younger focused horror. Zombie Town is a teen-aimed film, mystery teen romancer. It's described as, it's based on an R.L. Stine book. Of course, R.L. Stine getting a lot of his stuff adapted, which is fantastic. Definitely got an audience. Henry Cerny, Marlon Kazadi, and Maddie Monroe are also part of the cast. And some of the folks involved with Kids in the Hall are going to be part of this. I'm sure we'll have a lot more news. I can't remember the last time I saw Chevy Chase actually in anything, honestly. Now, this one may be a little more horror adjacent. The subject matter is cannibalism, which is often horror, but based on everything that I've read about this so far, Bones and All, which is the new Timothee Chalamet film, Taylor Russell is also starring in this. It's been described as a number of things, including horror love story, but it also seems to be a lot more drama character based. So we'll see when we get a little bit more about this. But it's been acquired by MGM, and it's going to be coming into theaters November 23rd of this year. It's about two outsiders who embark in a 1,000-mile odyssey through Ronald Reagan's America, set in the 80s. When they discover they cannot outrun their terrifying past, the pair take a final stand to determine whether their love can survive their otherness. Now, that sounds very much like it could be in the horror space, but everything that I've read in like interviews with the cast seems like it's much less a horror film than maybe a drama with horror elements. So we'll have to see. I mean, certainly it's got a strong cast and a strong crew, so definitely something to watch. And Stephen King, of course, getting another adaptation. Mr. Harrigan's Phone from the collection If It Bleeds is on its way. Donald Sutherland and Jaden Martell, the stars of It, are in this film. It's going to come out October 2022. We have the official date on that. And if you're not familiar with this story, it's about a young boy who ends up bonding with a billionaire. And when the billionaire passes away, he's buried with an old phone, happens to be an iPhone in this case, and the young boy starts getting voicemails from the recently departed, and of course, being Stephen King, it's going to go some dark and interesting places. And it kind of came and went. I certainly remember reading about it. I've never actually seen the film, but 2014, there was a film called Last Shift about a young woman who takes a young cop who takes a last shift at a recently decommissioned police station. It goes awry, involving cults and personal history. Well, it's actually an expanded remake, which has actually started production is underway. Welcome Villain Films is the folks behind this. It's an expanded reimagining. And this is one of the photos from the set, and this actually is Jessica Sula, who is our star, and the director, Anthony de Blasi. Obviously, Jessica looks a little bit, she's got a little red on her, so we'll see how this goes. But it has wrapped production. They're looking at a 2023 release. Post-production has already begun. And I'm certain that we had already heard this, but apparently this is news now. September 27th, video on demand and streaming, which is actually going to be the same release date for the physical release for so you get Netflix, Blu-ray, and other media for the new Munsters film. Oddly enough, feels like very strange. We don't have a lot of photos for the Munsters, considering how much Zombie was putting stuff up during production. But We'll wait to see what the film's like. And the Amityville Horror has got a new 4K Ultra HD scan from its original 35 millimeter negative. Vinegar Syndrome is the folks behind this. It's available for pre-order, and it is takes you all the way back to the original Amityville Horror, all the remakes and spin-offs and Amityville Shark or whatever it is that's coming out now. This is the original, and certainly the one that is worth checking out. James Brolin, Margot Kidder, Rod Steiger, fantastic cast. And if of all the Amityville films, this is probably the one that if you haven't seen, you should. And we have a photo from the new Mike Flanagan series, Midnight Club. This is coming out this Halloween. It is an adaptation of the Christopher Pike 1994 novel as a series. It's also going to be adapting some of the other Christopher Pike stories. It's going to come out October 7th, and this is the first image released, which shows our cast, which of course is a younger cast. Eamon Benson, Igby Rigby, Ruth Codd, Anna Ray Simon, William Chris Sumter, Ada, Aya Furukawa, Surjan Zapota, Matt Beidel, Samantha Sloyan, Zach Gilford, and Heather Langenkamp are in the cast on this one. So, and then we're going to have a pretty solid list of writers attached in the writers' room. And this is potentially art from the new Alien TV series. Now, this is concept art, and concept art is often gorgeous and amazing and looks nothing like the finished product. So we'll have to wait and see. But we do have some new images that have been released. This came from the folks over at AVP Galaxy. And so you can see you've got a crashed spaceship. You've got a little bit of, and this is, well, of course, is all taking place on Earth. So we'll have to see what this actually makes it to the screen. But certainly the art looks great. So much concept art always does. The premise, we show a Weyland-Yutani spaceship, which is the U.S. CSS Maginot, and it is crashed in the middle of a city. Of course, xenomorphs on Earth is something that a lot of fans have been looking forward to seeing for a very long time. And we have some of the screenshots from the new 2023 planned release for the Sherlock Holmes The Awakened. This is the Sherlock Holmes Lovecraft universe video game. And they've done really well with this particular project. They've gone way through their Kickstarter goals for getting it made. And there's another photo from it there. And they're looking at February 2023. Ultimately, their Kickstarter raised 320% of what they originally planned for. And of course, this puts Sherlock and Watson up against the Cthulhu mythos. It's coming to pretty much every platform that there is. And Darkstone Digital's The Mortuary Assistant has been a hit. People have been really thrilled about it and really enjoying this really dark and twisted game. Dread XP, publisher, is now going to turn this into a film. So the game just came out, as far as I can tell. I have not played this game, so I can't speak to its gameplay. But it's still fairly early in its release, but it's been big enough that they're going to go ahead and work on adapting it to a film. And the folks behind the game are going to be involved with the adaptation. So if nothing else, you got the right people on it, right? And the folks over at Her Universe have got more horror-themed apparel. They've got all kinds of stuff. You got Beetlejuice and some Chucky stuff. You can head over to heruniverse.com if you want to pick this stuff up. And finally, the Overlook Hotel is not where I would necessarily go to think about selling fashion, but Gucci has an ad campaign they are running right now called the Exquisite Gucci Campaign, where they have combined their fashion with the imagery of Stanley Kubrick. And of course, so much of that involves horror imagery. You head to the Overlook Hotel. I'm not sure I would want to buy any clothing, no matter how well made or how stylish, if it comes with these creepy twin girls or strange people in the bathtub. But these are far from the only Stanley Kubrick films that they are diving into with this campaign. They've got stuff with The Clockwork Orange, 2001, The Shining, of course, Eyed Wide Shut. And these are recreations of the original, images and sets. So it's a very elaborate campaign. The folks at Gucci say they've always been charmed by cinema for its power to tell stories that can probe human adventure at its drift. So I'm not entirely sure what to do with this. Again, it's great looking photography, and it's certainly lovely recreations. But again, I'm not sure I would buy anything that, just seems a little odd. Anyway, that's all that I have got for you guys today. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Appreciate you watching. Like and subscribe and do all those wonderful things that are helpful to reaching a larger audience. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in a week with a little bit more in the horror space here on Sci-Fi for Me.
Good Morning Multiverse, Saturday morning at 11, 10 Central, only on Sci-Fi for Me TV.